You're live. You might be live. Okay, it didn't work a minute ago. I had to start over from the beginning. So, about a week ago, I saw a video from an English bloke who wants to spend his summer dressing more like Magnum PI, and he had a couple of images. And I was familiar with the show. I don't remember it all that well. It kind of came out sort of in between what Miami Vice and MacGyver, kind of in that era of action television. Um, there was a similar show called Riptide where I think the guys mostly wore polo shirts. And they had a pink Marine Corps helicopter, and somehow that helped them solve crimes or something. And they mostly wore polo shirts. Miami Vice, of course, was the super stylish thing. So when Magnum PI was first pitched, I did a little bit of research. He was supposed to be kind of a James Bondy guy, but Tom Selleck wanted to make him more of an everyman after he had turned down the role for Indiana Jones or whatever. Yada yada yada. None of this is super important. Um, a little bit of his backstory, though. I delved for the sake of rather than just show pictures that you can look up on Yahoo or whatever. He was. I was thinking he was always wearing a baseball cap, and or in some of the images or whatever, I thought, oh well, he was maybe. He was definitely not from Hawaii. I thought he was maybe from Ohio or someplace as a transplant, and I was right. So according to the bio, Magnum PI was born in Detroit but grew up in Virginia on the shore near the trade waters or whatever, and went to Annapolis, which is all Chesapeake Bay and Maryland and Virginia and that waterway through there and yada yada yada. Okay, boats and yay. So why the Detroit connection? No reason at all. And then he goes in the Navy, goes to war, he gets wounded, he becomes POW, he comes back, he starts a detective agency because he's become basically a beach bum in Hawaii. So that's that. Why he doesn't come from North Carolina or San Diego, California, I don't know, whatever. Um, but again, he's not Miami Vice, and he's I don't know if he ever wears leather jackets like MacGyver. That was part of his thing, was he had the mullet and the leather jacket. I don't know that he always had the mullet. I think the mullet might have came in like season 2 or 3. But Magnum doesn't have the mullet, of course. Magnum has the mustache. I don't have a mustache. I didn't grow a mustache. I wore a hat for the video instead of just doing that. But when he wears a hat, it's not a super casual hat like this. It's more of a Navy uniform inspired hat, if memory serves from the photo. But I guess if you wanted to be Magnum-ish without being military-ish, like a ball cap would work. But the real ones, or the truer ones, traditionally are wool, which would be warm for summer, even if you're not in Hawaii, which may or may not be warmer than where you are. I think Phoenix might be hotter than Hawaii most of the time. So something in a cotton might be more what you want to do, even though it's not Magnum to a T. Um, let's see, the guy he showed the two basic principal outfits is what I put in the title: casual preppy. He's not breaking a lot of new ground here. He's not wearing a tie because he's in Hawaii most of the time. I don't think Magnum wears a tie. But he doesn't always wear a Hawaiian shirt. And I mean, I already did a long video on Hawaiian shirts last year, I think it was. So I'm not going to show 8 million Hawaiian shirts. You know what they are. And I'm going to talk about that again in a minute in relation to some other historical pop culture timeline stuff that we'll come back to. The other thing was an Oxford cloth shirt. Didn't find the exact one. This one has a stripe pattern. I don't know that Magnum would wear a stripe. They showed him in a solid blue. This one, of course, has yellow. This is also a short sleeve. They showed him typically with a long sleeve and the sleeves rolled up. I don't know if he wore anything linen, although personally I can't stand poplin in summer. It's too thick. This is part rayon or something, and I'm already almost sweating. So linen, I don't know if Magnum would wear this bold of a color when he's not wearing a hula shirt. But this having long sleeves and being linen and being a solid, I think would be acceptable. Here's a slightly different version from LL Bean that is the powder blue color, more true to the one in the photo, but this also, again, linen, not poplin. So we have a slightly different color, a slightly different texture, much more friendly for the heat and possible humidity. I don't know that Magnum ever wears plaid. So I don't know if every other kind of camp shirt besides a Hawaiian shirt would be technically Magnum, but if you have them, they're probably fine. I also have like something like this, which is also linen instead of cotton. Like I said, the other guys on the other show, I think mostly wore polo shirts. I think they wore traditional polo shirts, more like the LL Bean double L ones or whatever. This is a different one that's more of a t-shirt jersey material than the heavier, more structured or whatever the other. And this one has a pocket and some stripes. I think you could get away with this for Magnum if you were, being casual and semi-coastal and all that, without it being, again, totally true to character necessarily. Again, I don't have a rundown of every outfit he ever wore. But he was a Navy officer turned beach bum. We already talked about that. Okay. So I did that already. Okay. This won't be a super long video like some of my other ones that hopefully people will go back and watch. So basically, though, the reason I'm throwing in these other things is because, as I said, in pop culture terms, his wardrobe is kind of a mixed message and his style is a little all over the place. I mean, I know my style is a little all over the place. I have like 7 different themes or whatever that I, rotate, and depending on my mood or the weather or whatever. And the time of year isn't always lined up exactly with the weather, as I've complained about many, many times. But in the 80s, or starting with Animal House, as everybody's kind of mentioned, in the 60s, and maybe earlier than that, MASH and some other screwball things, we were given this comedy dichotomy, or whatever you call it, that where we have the villains are the wealthy snobs, and the heroes are often the, not always poor, but run-of-the-mill slobs, right? And so Magnum being kind of straddling this line, maybe he kind of floats between both worlds a little bit more than some of the other characters. I don't know. But again, in the movies that I mentioned in the previous nautical videos and things, One Crazy Summer, we definitely have the John Cusack gang, who are all motley bunch of weirdos. And then the yuppie real estate developer family, yada, yada, yada. And so they are, dressed more like Magnum on the villain side most of the time, with the Bermuda or the Madras, shorts. I don't know that Magnum would wear seersucker. Again, maybe a seersucker top more than seersucker pants, but another preppy, yuppie staple kind of thing. Magnum, especially known for his khaki pleated shorts, which is even mentioned in not only that guy's video, but in the YouTube, or not YouTube, sorry, Yahoo or Wikipedia menu, whatever. where they specifically talked about khaki pleated shorts, but also denim jeans. So Hawaiian shirts and dungarees, again, being the slob spectrum, because this has codification and different meanings through the years and yada yada. But it is beach bum attire, which makes it slob. But again, on the other side of the spectrum, madras or madras from instead of One Crazy Summer and Summer Rentals, that was the other one I meant to mention, the John Candy Summer Rental. This is not exactly madras, but true madras is like a patchwork quilt kind of thing. But Bermuda shorts and all that being more of the yuppie side of the thing. Same with the pleated shorts and the seersucker and the linen, yada yada yada. Both One Crazy Summer and Summer Rental had boat themes introduced, and there's a regatta and they, race and all that, and yada yada yada. Not totally relevant here. I don't know if Magnum ever goes on a boat. He has a fancy car, a sports car, a fasty vroom vroom thing. But if you go back just a couple years before those movies, but after Animal House, of course, you have The Outsiders, where the big division is Mustangs and Madras, which is part of Magnum's look. Again, this with this being one of the outfits definitely portrayed, although in the video the guy picked a black shirt, which is definitely not really Hawaiian or Magnum. Although I did show a dark Hawaiian shirt because you can get those, but I don't usually wear this in the sun in the daytime. Versus, of course, the greasers who wear the denim and, they'd wear leather jackets, I guess, if they could afford them or whatever. But the Hawaiian shirt or the hula shirt being, again, not quite classified in the same Bermuda sense in the snob versus slob movies, because John Candy would wear a Hawaiian shirt, whereas Richard Crenna would not. In One Crazy Summer, I understand. You get the point. Animal House being kind of a divert because everybody's dressed more preppy because they're all at college during that year of era of preppy casual clothing. So the slobs and the snobs, there isn't a lot of differentiation based on wardrobe like there is in The Outsiders. But of course, The Outsiders not a comedy, not a screwball comedy especially, so it's more of a life and death situation and yada yada. A Magnum PI, I don't know how much life and death is actually going on. I think it's a little more mild-mannered than, again, Miami Vice, where the stakes are all super high, and every single episode you don't know who might get, buy the farm and all that. But everybody's dressed super, stylish and elegant. We're not hanging out at the beach in Miami Vice. We're going to clubs and, doing deals and all that kind of thing. So, in short, yes, the Magnum look, again, I think can be pretty easily thrown together with a lot of simple combinations. And again, you're not really trying to break new ground. But again, you're a little bit of a schism, perhaps, between which look do you really want to go. I mean, are you doing the beach bum thing, or are you doing, he's kind of doing a preppy beach bum more than a bum, but then the thumbnail shows him. He's sitting in a hammock wearing, this, and life is good. I've got a pineapple and a straw. What else could I possibly need besides a really expensive vroom vroom car that doesn't grow on trees and would definitely, again, be something that the snobs own, not the greasers or the beach bums or the weirdos or so. it's a little incongruous. It's not a perfect one-to-one, but it is mostly stuff you might have already lying around. And so if anybody's just curious, you can always say, "Oh, I'm Magnum PI today," or whatever, and get away with it. Maybe again, getting away with it not always being the operating principle we want to guide our. But in summer, when things heat up and we're not necessarily wanting to wear suits and ties and Miami Vice or country gentleman tweeds or anything, we can go beach bum without being totally bummy. Still, right? I think I've made this point before. And now I just have another character to use to make it again. So that's about, excuse me, I'm getting the hiccups. That's about all I had to say on this one. So I'll try and wrap it up. Rapido and 4th of July, and everybody's going to be out celebrating and not going to watch this anyway. But if you do watch this, I did that long video, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago or something that like 3 people watched. So hopefully some of you will go back and watch that, and it might answer some questions. And if not, whatever, I'm going to do another video probably next week or the week after when I have my official early summer transition, if I have any significant transition to discuss, which of course will be up to the dice of fate. And again, I did find the hat that I was crowing about in previous videos. I'm not going to put it on now. It's definitely not a Magnum PI hat necessarily, but it is a Caribbean-ish or bluesman-ish. It's another one of those things that can kind of skirt certain categories. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And if they're legitimate questions, I'll try and come up with a legitimate answer. And otherwise, if you're having the holiday, enjoy the holiday. And if you're in some weird foreign country, you wish you were here, probably. But you're not. And if you're in Hawaii, then you're there and doing whatever you do there. And probably don't watch Magnum PI at all. Because you think he's, some mainland guy who doesn't surf or whatever. I don't know. Let's go with stereotypes. It's fun. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up and stop trying to make jokes.